Hey guys, how's it going? So I'm really excited about today. We're going to talk about how to stay in your lane, how to mind your own business, and still be that awesome, responsible parent that we all know that you are. And I'm really excited because my friend Angie is going to be joining us. Um, so while we wait till she pops on, this is the first time I've clicked that brought a friend button. So yeah, so today we're going to talk about, often we hear, especially when when we're waking up, when we're trying to be more mindful, when we start becoming more aware of our thoughts and everything, we, like, how does that mix with being a responsible parent? Because, when you may be in control of your emotions, right? But, or you may be aware of your emotions, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody in your household is aware of their emotions as well, right? One sec. Let me let me just try and invite Angie one more time. Um oh, because I have no viewers. One sec. Sorry guys, we will figure this out. So yeah, this is the topic that I want to talk about today, okay? Because this happens a lot. This happens a lot with me. It comes up so much. Um, oh, there you go. There it is. Or there she is. Technical difficulties. It's all good. As smoothly as Instagram, but whatever. So she will be joining us very shortly because
Okay, okay. Mommy's live now.
there she
Hi.
is.
Hi, I
Hi,
made it.
Angie.
I couldn't find you at first. I was like, oh, why can't I find her? Okay, now I found you. You're here.
Yeah,
Leah
it's
wants
not
to
as
say hi.
obvious as Instagram, right?
Yeah, there you go. Hello.
Hi.
Okay, mommy's gonna go talk now.
So here, so I just quickly gave everybody a quick intro of what I thought today's conversation may be. And I know we spoke about this a few times, Angie, about staying in your lane while still being a responsible parent. But before we get to that, could you just do a quick intro of yourself? Just so people know who you are and what you do.
Shh. Okay, Leah. Can you go inside, please? Sorry.
Real life
Just
struggle,
momming here.
guys.
Hello, everyone. All right, I think I'm gonna have to move
So do you want
inside
to do
because
a
my
quick
internet is
intro just
really
about yourself,
shoddy.
Angie?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay.
Hi
For sure.
everyone. I'm Angie. I don't know if it's pausing on you. It's pausing on me. I can't fully hear you. But I am Angie and I'm like you. I'm a mom. I'm awake. I'm trying to evolve. I'm trying to do better. And the more and more I awaken, the more and more peaceful my life becomes and my within becomes. But the more and more I have questions when it comes to parenting. And the more and more I have questions around what, like, I don't even know. It's like throw all my expectations out the window and I don't know. I don't know what I'm left with. That makes any sense. And so I've just been super committed to, sharing with people this journey that I've been on and everything that I've learned in it, to understanding how powerful we are. Like, we're so incredibly powerful. And as moms, like, we model this for our children. And so you know, know better, do better. I have this tattooed on my arm, and it's like once you know better, you feel the responsibility, or I do, to do better and to model better for my children. And that's been an interesting journey. So I'm really excited to be starting to have these conversations with you, Natalie,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah. And
see
it's
what we
something that
unearth.
definitely needs to be talked about because, we're just two people and we're trying to figure it out, right? So there's a lot of people out there
Exactly.
that are that are trying to figure this out. And it's hard because where the hell do you go? It's not like you can just start up a conversation with anybody over coffee, be like, hey, I'm waking up and like all
Yes.
this cool, crazy stuff going on, but my kids are still behaving the same way. Like, what the hell, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like the spaces that are out there for moms don't tend to dive into this content and don't tend to just, it doesn't feel safe. For me, it never felt safe to talk about the things that were going through my mind and the questions that I had. And so I have created those spaces myself. And then I've connected to all the
Sorry,
people that
Angie,
are
you're just
creating those
breaking up a
spaces
little
as
bit.
well. Yeah. Okay. Go.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to.
Yeah, you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. I'm gonna. Of
Yeah,
course, I have
so
to
what
carry
do
all my
you
stuff with
think
me.
about, so have you ever heard the expression, staying in your lane, or just being mindful, right? Being mindful of um of our emotions and our feelings. Sorry guys, just one quick sec.
Close that door, please.
For instance, when you're doing a live and kids are throwing socks at you, right? That was actually a great example. So being aware of what we're thinking, of our emotions, and that's been a really big theme on my page lately. And again, you can know exactly, oh, I'm thinking this thought, why do kids always interrupt me when I'm on my live? So you see that thought, you're like, okay, I'm thinking it, whatever. And then you just drop it. But again, even though you're doing this, though this is your spiritual practice, it doesn't mean that your entire household is going to follow suit, right?
Is doing it.
And I find that can be really challenging, right? It's so challenging.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. I love how you said like you do it one time, right? And you're very proud of yourself. Like you do it the one time, you let it go, you have the thought, you let it go, but then you have this expectation still that it'll stop because you've done that thing, but it doesn't always stop.
No. Yeah, sometimes it can get louder, right?
Yeah.
And I think we put
Yeah, and it's
such
an
high,
invitation.
yeah, and we put such high expectations on ourselves as moms, about anything, right? Maybe that's a clean house, whatever it is, being that like perfect mom. And then when we start this spiritual journey, that habit that we have of, again, those really high expectations, like, oh, I started this journey now, but it's been a few years, and I'm not like a monk, I'm not like Buddha, my family can still be a shit show, like, what am I doing wrong, right? Like all these like super big and like these high expectations that we have on ourselves as moms.
Yeah.
um
You just said those
yeah.
words. Those words are like that like resonates so much. It's what did I do wrong? How many times do moms think that? What did I do wrong for
Yeah.
whatever they're seeing? Because we're attaching a thought, right? Or we're attaching to the thought, right? That something, it means something. That the way our child is behaving means something. That, the mess that the house is in means something about us.
Yeah, I love how you brought that up, that meaning, right? Because what happens as humans, and moms especially do this because, again, all these high expectations that either we have on ourselves or others may have on us. But whenever you're in a situation, any kind of situation, you automatically give it meaning. Like that's just what your brain does, right? It's like it's automatic.
Yeah.
You either give it a good meaning or a bad meaning, and then after that comes a thought.
Uh-huh.
And then if you hold on to that thought too long, it turns into like an emotion, right? Like you feel it in your body, like you feel frustrated, right? And so when we're able to catch that thought at the very beginning, that can really help us start to like, manage those emotions.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you said
And
that.
yeah. And that's really hard when we're surrounded by little humans who are just like energetically barfing out emotions all over the place, right?
All over.
Um, yeah, yeah. It's so challenging because you're trying to stay in your center, right? You're
Yeah.
trying to, stay in your lane, keep your zen or whatever. But I mean, the kids are arguing, and maybe your partner's bitching because the kitchen's a mess, and you're trying to stay centered, but then you're like getting pulled into all like these little stories,
Yeah.
right?
So many of them at one time too, right? When you have multiple children in the household, like so many at one time. And then when you're running a business from home, there's all those things too, right? Like there's so many things. And are we being gentle on ourselves? I don't know that we are. I feel like that's a default where we're hard on ourselves, and again we make it mean something about us, right? That this is all
Yeah,
happening because of something I've done. And that's just not helpful. And we although we create, right? And we create the circumstances that happen for us, and it's happening for us. It's an opportunity. I do believe this, but just because we create, it doesn't mean we have to be hard on ourselves, right? Like we create unconsciously as well. And we have
yeah,
a lot of unconscious like programming to deprogram. We have a lot of layers, not
yeah,
just as moms, as women, as humans,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And I love that part that you brought up of, we felt like we created this because, maybe everything was, quiet and peaceful. People were getting along in the house. And then all of a sudden, I don't know, they start arguing or a fight breaks out or,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And you're like, oh, what did I think? What emotion in me? Because again, like whatever's going on in you is going to be reflected in the world outside of you. But I
Yeah.
mean, we got to be careful with this, guys, because
Yes.
then we're kind of getting stuck in that high expectation of, oh, I'm not doing everything perfectly. That's why everything's a shit show
Mm.
outside. That's why kids are interrupting or everything. Because it's like, what did I do? What's my emotion right now that's creating this? Well, sometimes it's just the fact that you're living with other people, and sometimes that fucking sucks, right?
Yeah, it's
Like,
the human experience.
yeah,
Sorry, my daughter is coming in.
yeah, that's fine.
And I'm not making any meaning of it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's so hard.
It's so challenging, and it's so, you know, something like I come into in my own experience, right, with my 9-year-old is like this needy energy, very, very needy, needy, needy. And I know from working with people and just from understanding humans that whatever is being reflected to me, whatever I'm judging outside of myself, within my children, my husband, anyone, it's something that I'm judging within myself. And so it's taken me a long time of being so frustrated with her neediness to finally looking at where am I judging my own neediness, because I have a neediness energy. Otherwise I wouldn't notice her neediness, because children are needy. I think that's like, I don't know, I think that's a fact. Children are needy, you know? I judge it in my daughter because I judge it inside of me. And so it's taken me down this huge journey of looking at my own neediness. And now I have felt the energy shift, so it's shifted significantly, like where her neediness now I have compassion for because I found compassion for it within myself.
Yeah,
And I feel like that's a really helpful thing, instead of judging it within ourselves, just looking at it and looking at where does that energy exist and how can I have compassion for myself with it.
yeah. And that's a real talent to have. That's a real skill to look at something um, about yourself,
Mhm.
to be brave enough to look at it, first of all, and then to have enough space to not judge yourself. Be like, okay, I have this neediness inside of me. That's okay. Like, we're all in these human bodies, guys. It's not like we're a bunch of giraffes or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that takes a lot of courage and a lot of skill to not get sucked into those thoughts, right? Sucked into those like little ego games of,
Yeah.
oh, I shouldn't feel needy, right? I shouldn't feel this. It shouldn't all be about me. Like, why am I focusing on me? It's my favorite boy. Like, it's so hard not to get like ensnared in those thoughts.
Yeah, I love how you said that. That's so true. Like we are programmed it's selfish to think about ourselves. But the truth is, it exists within us, which is why we're seeing it outside of us. So, like, I always say, like, the biggest lie is that it's selfish to focus on ourselves, right? The biggest lie in this world is that. And it's so true because it starts within. And if we can start to unpack that and start to be brave, and you're right, it's a skill. This is not something I learned overnight. It has taken me 9 years, specifically as a mom, looking at these things within myself. And I would say only in the last few years that I've started to really understand, because I could say like I have a neediness inside of me because I see it, but I don't necessarily understand what that neediness is within me. It takes a lot of digging.
Yeah. And it's it's interesting that you brought up the fact that when we become moms, right? Because even though any day of your life, everything that you saw, anything that you experienced, any people that you interacted with are a reflection of what's going on inside of you. But we don't really see that, even if you have no idea what the hell consciousness is, you don't really start feeling that until you actually become a mother or a parent yourself.
It's
because
so true.
So many times it's like, we hear, oh, your daughter is so like you, or she's going to turn out exactly like you. And we do see those behaviors, like our own behaviors are reflected in our children, that our children pick up on it. And often it's the behaviors that we don't like about ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
That we don't want to look at. But that's what is brought out in our children's behavior. So I think that's, I think even just becoming a mom is kind of like that first step into awakening, into seeing the world from a different view, because all of a sudden you have this little human that is bringing up like all these things inside of you that, I mean, you worked hard to like pack that down and not touch it again, right? I mean, that was in a fire safe, we locked it up.
Oh yeah.
But then all these little people that we live with 24/7 are bringing it up.
And they mirror it every moment.
Because they're reminding us, first of all, we're like, oh, they're acting up. And then on a deeper surface, we're like, oh, they're bringing up, like, they're reflecting back, like, the stuff that I don't want to see, right?
Yeah. And you know what's so beautiful? They love us through it. Like, they bring it up, and it's so uncomfortable, and we don't like it, and we project and get mad. Sort of, like, stop that, shut that down, right? Try to shut it down, but it's our child, and they love us through it. So they're reflecting it to us, and they love us through the discomfort of it. It's such a beautiful healing journey, I believe, like it has been for me in receiving these reflections from my children. Yep, they've driven me crazy. They have absolutely driven me to the brink, but they love me. Like, that's what I see now in hindsight, is that my children still love me unconditionally. Yeah,
they do.
And that's what we need.
That unconditional love is really brought forth in kids.
Yeah.
I find, because they can pull like the craziest stunts on you. And then, half an hour later, they come back and they're like, I love you, mommy. And
I know.
Snuggle.
I know. Even when even when, like, I think about, like, with my kids, I'm just like, you can't even talk to me right now. Like, I don't even want to hear mom. I don't want to hear a question. I was feeling this way just the other day, and I was like, I just don't have the capacity for a question even, right? And it's like the next moment they're asking a question and I'm like, oh my gosh, like please leave the room now, right? And then it's like, yeah, 3 minutes later I have my cry and then my daughter comes back and hugs me and says like, are you okay now? I love you. And I'm like, yes, I'm okay now. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or they apologize, right? And you're
yeah,
like, it just warms your heart.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
They are, I mean, kids can be the most, I guess the most underrated teachers is what's coming in.
yep. Yeah, they are. They are. And one of the things, I think one of the things I would offer to everybody that watches this is one of the top things I do with my children, which really I find helps, is whatever emotional state I'm feeling, right? And if it's a heavy one where I'm pushing them away and I just kind of need space, right? I always tell them that what I'm doing or saying or feeling has nothing to do with them. I say it all the time. I literally say it
Mm,
all the time. I say, this has nothing to do with you, but I'm sorry, I need space right now. And it's gone a long way in my own family, even with my husband, actually. I say that to my husband too. And that has just helped because one thing we get trapped in, right, is mom guilt. So it's like we
yeah.
have this moment of emotional flare up and we might push our children away. We might push, people away, right? But specifically our children, we might push them away and they might need us. And so then we start to feel guilty because we needed that space. And I have relieved that guilt from myself by doing that, like by literally saying to them all the time. And so when my daughter gets upset that I am pushing away or that I'm saying no because I don't have the capacity to even think in that moment, I will literally say to her, I love you. I just need space and it has nothing to do with you. And then I come back to her when I'm ready. And so
Yeah,
she might
that's
get
really
emotional, but I
amazing.
don't feel guilty.
Yeah, that's a great exercise in starting to get rid of that mom guilt,
Yeah.
right? And um and just knowing that you deserve that space just as much as anybody else.
And they deserve that space. My 9-year-old does that. She'll do that. She'll ask us for space. She'll say, I just need to have space. And sometimes she even says to us, because we'll get mad sometimes when she does that. And that's not
Mhm.
fair. And she knows that. And she'll call us on it. Like she'll literally call us out on the bullshit. And she'll be like, well, you tell me that it's nothing to do with me. This has nothing to do with you. She said that to me a couple of times. And I'm like, oh, it doesn't.
No, no, and we need to be reminded of that as well as parents, because again, there's this mentality of something's wrong or I am perceiving something as wrong. I need to fix it right away. Otherwise, I am not like I'm not worthy of like this mom title. Um,
Yeah.
and it kind of goes like beyond helicopter parenting or micromanaging or whatever. I find it goes beyond that because it's such a deep rooted belief that just keeps getting exacerbated with social media and everything. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, yeah, I don't know what I was gonna say. It'll come back. Yeah, just having that space and knowing that it's okay for you to have that space to be like, you know what, like, and sometimes it's not as simple as because I'm really glad that you shared that with us, Angie, and that your daughter's starting to mimic that.
Mhm.
But sometimes it doesn't go as smoothly as that because I can tell my son that I'm like, you know, I don't appreciate you touching me, or I just don't want to be touched right now, even if it's a hug. Like I'm just
Yeah.
like my body just does not want to be touched. Um, Often, I mean, again, they're just little humans. They may not be receptive to that in that moment, and that's the stuff that's out of our control, right? And that's the
Yes.
stuff that can also get really frustrating. And often it's something that needs to be addressed not in that moment, or when
Yes.
everybody's kind of on a calmer, um, calmer field, right?
Yeah.
Because when emotions get poked, kids are great at doing this. Poke, 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 poke,
Yep.
mom, mom, mom. Sometimes we just literally have to, go into another room, or I mean, sit in a parked car is completely valid too, guys, especially in like those high, like those really intense emotional moments where you're just like, I am done, and I know I'm attaching to like a really crappy feeling, and I don't care because
And
I
I
want
don't
to
even
hold on
care.
to it,
Yeah,
right?
I want to right
Again, we're
now. I want
humans,
to.
right?
I want to be the victim
Yeah.
right now. That's what's coming through as you're saying that is like it's not personal, even with the children. Even with the children. And I don't know, I'm sure there's a lot of people that can relate to this. Like, so whenever you're moving through the experience of like, being with with the partner, right? Parenting, like co-parenting, if you're in a co-parenting situation or, you're in the same household, whatever. But where one takes it personally, and I'm trying to say like it's not personal, right? Because then like I'll look at my husband, I'll use the example, like he's like taking it so personally what's happening, and I'll just tell him like just give her space. Like she's not doing this to you. She's not purposely doing this to you, right? And it's up to us as the adults to sort of realize that. But when they poke and they poke and they poke, it feels personal. Feels personal because you voiced your opinion. You've said, I don't want you to touch my body. Like, please respect my body and just don't touch me. And then they touch you, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then we might take it personally, but it's really coming from a wound. Like, it has nothing to do with the child, right? And we take it so personally. And I do that all the time. I take it personally immediately. That's the habitual pattern.
Right, yeah, that pattern that, um like there's a situation, and we're thinking the same thought, and we're having that same reaction, that same emotion, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so hard to break out of those patterns, because if you don't see it, if you don't realize that you've been thinking the same thought for 20, 30 years, if you don't see that, how are you going to break it? Well, you
Yeah.
can't, right?
Yeah.
Which is so important, which is why it's so important to, I mean, the very first step I teach people is just to, focus on your breath, because then that kind of slows everything down, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, those cycles are so hard to break, especially in a family situation.
Yeah.
Um, because I mean, what the hell is family except for routine, right? You're always doing the same thing day in and day out. And when you have one person kind of challenging that status quo, changing the way they respond to things. Like when you said, when one parent doesn't take things too seriously, or realizes, is more aware of what's actually going on, and it's not about, you gave them the wrong spoon of something, it's something completely different.
Yeah.
When one parent sees that, but then the other one doesn't, and then the other one's like, oh, you're just letting these kids do whatever,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
and
you're
it's
letting
like,
them get away with it. That's what my husband says all the time.
yeah, yeah,
I'm
and
not
it's like,
letting her get
well,
away with this. And I'm like, there's nothing she's trying to get away with.
right, yeah, they're just acting out
Yeah.
whatever cycle they're stuck in, and this is what I mean by, even though we are awake, guys, even though we're moving through consciousness at whatever speed we are, whatever level we're at, that doesn't mean our whole household is jumping on the bandwagon and heading off to enlightenment. That's
Yeah.
not how it works, right?
Yeah. And I
That's
hear
that's
what you said
tough.
earlier, stay in your own lane. That's hard to
Yeah,
do in your own. It's a lot easier to practice out there in workplaces with friends, like to stay in your own lane. But within your family unit, in your home, oh man, staying in your own lane is really hard, especially with children. Children are
yeah,
their own little humans too, right? They have their own path of
yes.
evolution of consciousness. They have their own path. And so it's a fine line between respecting that,
Hmm.
right, in your children, and also guiding them,
Yeah, being the responsible adult,
being
right?
responsible. Yeah. And where's the line of responsibility? That's what I'm
Yeah,
always questioning. I'm always questioning what was just programmed for me to believe I'm responsible for? Or what is my own programming of believing I need to control? Because
Yeah.
children are highly emotional beings. We all are, but we've done a good job at sort of blocking a lot of those emotional states, and they just show it all. They just,
Yeah. Oh
they
yeah.
give it to you all in every moment.
Their emotions are in the buff. They're showing everything,
They're like,
guys. They're not
really
shy
are,
about
yeah.
it.
And you're like, oh my gosh, no,
Yeah.
I thought
Don't
I
do
put
that in
that
polite
away.
society. Yeah.
I thought I
Yeah.
put that away. And the way my parents dealt with it was not good, not healthy.
Mhm.
But that's what I know. That's what I know.
Yeah. And it makes you question everything, like everything that you thought you knew about parenting, right? And
Oh my
how
God.
you check yourself. Still on my life. But I'll pass it forward to you for a second.
And yeah, so what did I want to say? I wanted to say something about that. I wanted to say that responsibility, we're questioning everything about what we know about parenting. And that was why I was so grateful, Natalie, when you created a group about that, about consciousness and parenting, because that's exactly what the challenge was for me. Was I suddenly, everything I thought I had to do in parenting, I now wasn't sure I believed I needed to do that. But that's great that I came to that realization. But then what do I do instead? What do I do in place? Because parenting is happening every moment of my life right now. And if I don't know how to parent anymore, sometimes I'll just let it all go. I'll just be like, you know what? Let them be. Let them be their own little humans. Let them be, let them be, let them be. And then I'll have these bouts of guilt of like, oh my gosh, am I being a lazy parent? Am I being a, am I ruining their life? Like it gets extreme like that. Am I like ruining their education? Am I everything?
Can we go back there?
Can we go back there?
Yeah.
She's been talking about your house for every day
No,
since we
yeah,
left.
Because
Okay, I'm gonna put you down now, though, okay?
but yeah,
Because
you
I'm live.
you brought up such a great point, Angie, about and I posted something about this the other day. Are we messing up? Like, are we messing up as parents? Are we messing up our
Oh,
kids' lives
cut out.
because
Oh, there.
everything that you thought you knew about the world, about even just yourself, right? Everything that you thought you knew about yourself, all of a sudden, like, is tipped upside down and poured all over the damn floor, right? And then your kids are seeing this, your household seeing this, because I mean, hello, they're living with you, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, oh my God, like this kid's gonna need is this kid gonna need like major therapy?
Am I
Right?
creating
Because
their, exactly. I'm like creating their therapy appointments for them right now.
yeah, but I mean, but at the same point, we're also showing them a way to do things differently, right? That you can break out of the mold. You can
Yeah.
step away from, societal norms and still be okay, still be fine, still be better than fine,
Yeah. We're
right? So at the same
modeling.
point, it's like, you keep teetering of like, oh, like, this is really going to benefit my kids, and they're seeing this like different way of being and different way of living. And then on the other side, especially on the really, really heavy days where you're like crying on the kitchen floor or whatever over a spoon yourself, and then you're like, holy crap, these poor kids. What am I putting them through?
What am I showing them? You know what I think we're showing them though, Natalie? We're showing them evolution. We are always evolving as humans, and we're literally showing them the process of evolution. Like we're literally showing them it's okay to be this and that. It's okay, it's okay to be here and then be there, one day. It's okay to be. It's okay to be what you are. We're emotional beings.
Yeah,
We're humans.
yeah,
And every
yeah,
time we give ourselves that permission to be that, we model for them And it's just thinking. It's thinking that's telling us that, thinking isn't what's real. Like it's thinking
Yeah.
that's telling us.
We give it meaning, right?
Yeah.
We give,
Yeah.
and that's why the mindset component of waking up is so important, because at one point you're going to hit those blocks of, you've plateaued, or you're trying to get into the next paradigm, you're trying to get into a different job, you're trying to do, you're trying to create something for your life, and you're stuck. And that's where the
Yes.
mindset comes in of, what are you thinking right now? Because the more you think a thought, it becomes a belief. It becomes ingrained in you, and you think it's real, but it's not. It's just a freaking thought.
Yeah. And we think it over and over and over again that it becomes a belief. And then like, that all that is we're just thinking the same thought over and over again, the same thought that we created that wasn't even real to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah. And we
Right.
also
And
we also take other people's thoughts that they're thinking, and we're like, oh, that's mine, even though we don't realize it.
yeah.
Whatever, maybe conversations that you constantly have in your household, or your partner talking about their day, or your kids talking about their day, and
Yeah.
that they're essentially just like, they're unloading on you, which is fine, because we want to offer them a safe space, but we also kind of want to keep our shields up here, Scotty, and keep their
Yes.
thoughts to themselves. And that's really hard,
Yeah.
especially as women, especially as moms, and
Mhm.
especially if you consider yourself an empath, right? I mean,
That's what I was
because
thinking.
you just want to, like, you have this belief that, oh, like, if I take this pain away from you, it'll make it better. Well, no, because you're just exacerbating it, because now there's not just one person with that belief, there's two or
I
three or
got two of them.
four, right?
Yeah, and let's spread the energy throughout the house so that everybody is now attaching to it, right?
Yeah.
What do you do? I'm
Yeah.
curious at like what you do. Do you have a daily practice in protecting your own energy within your home?
I do a lot of grounding in nature. I give myself like scheduled breaks throughout the day, not necessarily scheduled by hour necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily by clock time, but I do have those breaks that I'll just go outside, and hopefully, if it's sunny outside, that's great, and if not, that's fine too, and just ground,
Mm-hmm.
so barefoot in the grass,
I just did
or
that before the
leaning up
call.
against a tree, touching a tree, kind of any of those things, and just like turn off my brain, my thoughts. So sometimes I'll put on, a podcast that I listen to. Like, I listen to a lot of Eckhart Tolle,
Mhm.
or just some like relaxing music, and following your breath. I mean, it seems so simple and so stupid, guys, but following your
So
breath
good.
is such an important thing to learn to do. And you don't have to have any fancy, breathing. I mean, if you want to breathe a certain way, like yoga breathing or whatever, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But especially when we're starting off, just follow your breath, right?
Yeah,
Like,
because you
really
breathe
focus.
already.
Yeah, yeah, we breathe all the time.
We
We're
already
just not
breathe.
aware of it. And yeah, we breathe all the time. We just don't think about it. We're not aware of it. And that is actually a great first step to that awareness feeling, that we're trying to share with others, right? Of just being aware of
Yeah.
such a simple thing. We don't even think about it, of breathing. Just follow your breath in and out, and you
Just
can picture it
return to
as
it.
a light or whatever if you want, but it's not necessary. Just follow
Yeah,
your
I
breath.
think we overcomplicate. We overcomplicate, and I think moms, it's really important. Moms are busy, man. Moms are busy. And in
Yeah.
the physical world, in our mental capacity, we're busy. Emotionally, we're busy. And we like shy away from this idea of meditation, of, you know what I mean, breath work, of sitting and doing that. But it's true. Like, you just follow your breath. Like, that is presence. Literally just tapping into your breath. And then your mind's going to go somewhere else. And that's okay. It goes somewhere else. You just return to the next breath. Like, even if you have to do it
Yeah.
100 times, 100 times is okay. Like, if you take 5 minutes to go outside and put your feet in the grass, right? And you have to return to your breath 25 times, that's okay. You don't need to make it mean something that you couldn't stay on your breath.
Yeah, that's a great point. And And just the act, and sometimes we get frustrated, right? Because we're like, oh, we were stuck in this thought for like a minute or 5 minutes,
Yeah.
but you caught it. Remember that you caught
Mm-hmm.
the thought. It doesn't matter how long you were thinking it, you realized
Mm-hmm.
what you were thinking. And that is such a huge, I mean, we should celebrate that of like, shit, yeah, I caught this thought. It doesn't matter how long I was
Damn.
thinking it for. I caught it. And when you catch
Yes.
it, you're in that like awareness.
Yes.
And
That is
that
awakening,
is
that
something
moment.
not to take, yeah. Like we should, I think we under celebrate that, if anything, and we should have a freaking parade whenever that happens, because that is so
Absolutely.
huge.
It's huge. Like people
Yeah.
don't realize that is so huge. Like exactly, it doesn't matter if it took you 25 times, you know what I mean, to return to your breath, but the fact that you caught, exactly, you're right. That moment, like that literal moment is a moment of awakening. It's a moment of connection. Because we
Yeah.
don't, when we're aware, we're conscious. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
The moment of
Yeah.
awareness equals consciousness. Like it equals being awake in that moment.
Yeah.
And we go in and out of consciousness and unconsciousness,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
But
completely
you're right, we
normal.
don't
And again,
celebrate
we need
every time
to,
we go into consciousness.
yeah. And I think that's something we definitely need to do more, especially as moms, because again, all those high expectations we put on ourselves, but celebrate those little wins. You know, maybe you just caught yourself thinking once today. Well, that's freaking awesome because you did it once. Because you can do it once, you can do it twice. And yeah, we really need to just, yes, celebrate ourselves when we do that, because that's us telling ourselves that we are getting this, we are learning how to do this. It helps our confidence, and it strengthens our determination to keep going. Okay, like which next thought am I going to catch, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it becomes a fun game. Like I teach something, like I don't even think I shared like my business is Journey to Soul, but within my membership, I teach the Buddhist trainings. It's a Tibetan Buddhist tradition of training called Lojong. And Lojong is a set of slogans, of instructions, if you will, right? And it literally teaches us the practice. The number one thing of Buddha was his teaching is that there is suffering. Everyone suffers. If we can accept that there is suffering, then we can start to actually relieve the suffering. But we're always in a state of avoidance of suffering. And when we're in avoidance, it's hard to awaken. It's hard to enlighten. It's hard to raise our consciousness. And so one of the first teachings in this training is literally about thought. Like thought is an illusion. Thought is, it has no birthplace. It literally comes out of nowhere. It has no actual dwelling until we hook onto it and we create meaning for it. It has no home, and it is constant. It's constant. We'll never get rid
Yeah.
of it, but what we can do is just notice it. That's the path of enlightenment, is becoming aware of it and allowing it to let go. Like allowing, not hooking onto it. And it's really
Yeah.
cool because the training literally shows you in meditation. It really helps you see a thought come and you just let it go, and it disappears into emptiness. It just go, like if you think about it, a thought that pops up and you let it go, where does it go? It doesn't go anywhere. It returns to emptiness because it came from emptiness.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a big lesson I learned when I started even realizing, like being able to recognize those thoughts, is because often you don't even realize you're thinking because you're thinking all the time. So if you're in
All
the
the time.
thick of something,
Never
you're
stop.
not going to see it, right? So when I first started catching myself thinking, and then the next step in that is realizing that like you are not your thoughts. A thought is just like a
Yes.
little cloud
It's
float
just a
through your
thing.
head, or like a leaf on the ground. It's just a thing. It doesn't, if you don't let it hold meaning, that it's not going to hold meaning. It's going to go, it's going to float away, like you said, into nothingness.
Yeah. And it'll just be
Yeah.
gone. It'll just be gone.
Yeah.
And that's it. And another
Yeah.
thought will come along. Another one will come in.
Right. Yeah. And as moms, again, because we have this, because we're responsible for humans, for our children, right? And we have such high expectations on ourselves. We don't want to mess this up. We don't, we want to be the best mom ever. we don't want to, mess up our kids and all this stuff. So we're putting so much pressure on ourselves. And especially kids are great at this or when you're interacting with children, that's when like a lot of thoughts come in, right? Because again, we're just running on autopilot when we're around people that are in our household. And kids are great at triggering us. I'll often tell my kids, like, especially like in the middle of something, and I'm like, thank you so much for triggering me. I'm like, I don't know what this trigger is. Thanks for triggering me, because clearly I needed to be triggered.
Give me 1 second. I got an impatient 3-year-old here. Yes.
And yeah, I mean, and it's really hard to catch your thoughts, guys, when we're in the middle of, conversations with kids, interacting with kids. It's so hard because kids just suck you in, right? And again, it's kind of like that repetitive cycle that we've been in since day one, since day one of being a mom or day one of your life. We're stuck in this repetitive cycle of, you come home from work, you walk in the house, and then A, B, C, and D happens. Boom, boom, boom. And then you give A meaning, you give B meaning, you give C meaning, you give D meaning. And next thing you know, you're like up to your neck in, all this habitual crap that you're trying to break out
And then
of.
you're hiding in the bathroom.
Yeah. You're locked in the bathroom and, but so let's say, you come home from work, when we're walking into that house, if we can walk in with awareness of like, okay, every time I walk in, this happens, and I always react this way. So how about I try reacting in a different way, right? And that's going to change the outcome. Now, sometimes it doesn't change the outcome for the better, because often what happens also when you're waking up, when you're realizing, all this amazing consciousness, spirituality stuff, when you change the way you react, well, sometimes you wind up triggering like your husband or something.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, sorry.
You do.
Yeah, sometimes I go to my husband, I'm like, man, you are one brave MF, because you did not sign up for this when we got married. So buckle up.
Thank you for being here. I know. It's so true.
Yeah.
But they're growing too, right? And that's another opportunity to stay in your lane. Like if they're triggered, let them be triggered. Let them be triggered. Let them figure it out. And just give them love. Like, because you were triggered just a moment ago from your child. So, we can forward that, right? And that's what I love about Buddhism. Buddhism really teaches us, like, we're all in the suffering together. And we can stay in our lane and let them have their trigger.
Yeah. Stay in your lane. Focus on you while offering them space, right? And just being aware of that, just being like present, as Eckhart Tolle says, just being in that now moment offers them, whether it's your husband or your daughter or your son, or everybody, you're offering them space to just, do whatever they need to do. Because again, it's not your path. It's not your, even though it feels like it is, especially with our kids, it feels like, we have to be in charge of their path. But I mean, you can force it as much as you want, guys, but that's just going to create more drama and more conflict. Just sometimes you just got to let them be, let them feel those emotions that they're feeling, because again, it's not my path, right?
Yeah. It could be a really great future conversation we have is codependence, because that's often what happens within family units is like we feel like our lane is our lane of the whole family together. But stay in your lane actually means you as an individual stay in your lane. And even though we're in a family unit, and I believe that's what we chose in this experience, right? We did, but, and I believe that's for a purpose, but that doesn't mean codependence. That doesn't mean that we don't have our own lane and they don't have their own lane as well. Like all of them, including the children. So I would love to have that conversation one day and sort of unpack codependence, because that's a big one.
Yeah, for sure. So I think we're almost at the hour mark, so I think we should wrap up. But for everyone watching, thank you so much for joining us. And Angie and I are gonna be doing this once a week. Probably Mondays, sometimes Tuesdays, who knows? Again, we're moms, guys.
allow us to
happens.
be flexible. Give us some space for the
Yeah,
flexibility. Totally. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Angie, thank you so much for joining me on
Thank
today's live. This
you.
was such an amazing conversation. Thank you for sharing it with me.
Thank you. Thank you. Like, I look forward to these conversations.
Absolutely. And thank you to everyone who, all of our viewers, either watching live, on the rebroadcast, incognito. Thank you guys so much. And again, if you guys have questions or comments, drop them in the video, okay? And
Yes,
any
please.
questions that you may have about parenting and being awake and kind of like WTF, what's going on, let us know, okay? And we would love to chat about it.
Yeah. What are the questions burning in you? Put them out there. Put them out there.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Thank
Angie
you,
and I will
everyone.
dissect them together.
All right. I love you. Have a great
Okay.
day, everybody.
Bye. Love you
Thanks,
too.
Natalie.
Thanks. Bye.